Well, hello again. I'm Bill Russell, President of Lake Norman Chamber of Commerce, and this is another edition of Around the Lake. And today we're taking a little bit of a departure from what we normally do in profiling and spotlighting a business. We're actually spotlighting a program of the Chamber of Commerce, which was created in 2015. It was our Lake Norman Young Professionals. We were looking at how to engage the young people that might be either owning companies or businesses or working for some that may not necessarily be coming to Chamber of Commerce events. So in 2015, we created the Lake Norman Young Professionals. Chaz Churchwell, matter of fact, was one of the first presidents of our Young Professionals. But they had their own networking events, their own philanthropy. They put on their own professional development. And today we have Bailey Sigler, and Bailey is the president of our Young Professionals. But before we get into the YP program, Bailey, what's the business that you have and what do you do?
Sure. So I'm a financial advisor for Premier Planning Group. We're a wealth management financial advising firm.
Okay. And how long have you been involved in our Lake Norman Young Professionals?
Since probably pretty close to 2015. Okay. I would say, probably the end of 2015 was whenever I started coming to meetings.
Did you come? Our first event was at the old Harvey's location down near where the barbecue house is.
Sure. Yeah.
That was our very first event, was in that Harvey's location. Did you come to that?
I did not. The first one I came to was at the North Harbor Club, that kind of back room at North Harbor Club. But Chaz was the president then.
Bailey, I kind of covered a little bit of it, but share with everyone, in your mind, what does the Young Professionals do?
Sure. So ultimately, we're a networking group, but we strive to be both a professional networking event and a social networking group. So a lot of folks in the community, if they're younger professionals, they're either just starting out their companies, or like you said, they're working for a company that already exists, but they're trying to get their foothold in the community. And I think the best way to do that is by a two-pronged approach of professional networking and growing that, but also personal networking, because a lot of people, when they move to the Lake Norman area, they're planning on being here for the next 10, 20, 30 years. This isn't a short-term area, not necessarily. So it's definitely nice to see people working both professionally and socially through our group. And it's whether that's an event that we have planned and we've pushed, or just folks meeting each other through our group, and then we'll go golfing together or go out on the lake or whatever that is, that other activity.
Now you have some standing meetings that take place that people could tell you. Talk about some of the standing meetings that you have in place.
Sure. So we have basically three types of events that we always have standing. We've got the second Tuesday of the month at 11 Lakes at 6:30 p.m. And that one is what we consider more of our structured meeting. We typically have a speaker from around the community. You've came and spoke. David Keith has came and spoke, or just somebody from the community comes and talks. We do some networking, and then we have our speaker, and then we finish out with some networking as well. And then the fourth Thursday of the month, we have a social event. We call it our Off the Clock, and that generally starts about 6 p.m. And that location rotates. So we want to highlight different businesses in the community and bring our business there. So typically it's some sort of brewery or bar that we'll have our group meet up at their back room or wherever that is.
Bailey, I said the ages are 21 to 39 because that's what we envision. But if someone is just say graduated from high school at 19 and decides, hey, they're going to go into CPCC or just go straight into workforce, or maybe somebody's 40 or 41, are you going to let them in?
Of course, yeah. I consider us very inclusionary. So it's 21-ish to 39-ish is what I tell people. So it's definitely nice to have people who are either just age out of our group, because people in our group who want to do business, they want to do business with people of all ages. And so we're the Young Professionals, and yes, we want to highlight being a Young Professionals organization, but we also want to be inclusionary of anyone who wants to come to one of our events.
And speaking of that, let's just, our Chamber of Commerce, we have business members from Cornelius, Davidson, Huntersville, Mooresville, Denver, Charlotte. But let's just hypothetically say that someone's business, they work for somebody in Concord or Statesville, but they live here in Davidson or Mooresville. Can they attend Lake Norman Young professional events?
Yes, they can. So we kind of have our own separate membership that we charge. It's a $50 annual membership for folks to be in our group as an addition to their chamber membership. But yeah, so we definitely want to do that because we feel it's a way to get people to come into the Lake Norman Chamber. We feel it's a very accessible entry point into the chamber, and it gets them involved in chamber events as well.
You know, Bailey, when we created this almost 10 years ago, we envisioned helping nurture the future of business and community leaders. And in 2023, the board chair of the Lake Norman Chamber of Commerce is going to be Douglas Marion, who has been a Lake Norman Young professional.
Exactly. I mean, I think Douglas is the prime example of the young professionals doing exactly what they were designed to do.
You have a big fundraiser coming up. Do you want to speak about what you're doing at Frankie's?
Very much so. So we have our third annual putt-putt tournament or mini golf tournament coming up on October the 18th. Like you said, at Frankie's in Huntersville. It's 6:30 p.m. And so we're doing teams of four. So essentially, it's just like a regular golf tournament, just shrunk down to a mini golf size in the evening. And the beneficiary of it is Pat's Place in Charlotte. And I encourage anyone that hasn't looked up Pat's Place to give them a look online. They are a child advocacy center, and they're one of the only ones, if not the only ones, in Charlotte. And I believe last year they supported and helped out about 700 children. So it's a huge number, and just with more resources, they'll just be able to help out that many more folks.
That's fantastic. You said that you got involved pretty much at the get-go of our young professionals. Mm-hmm. When you joined 8 years ago, or whatever that was, what were you looking for as a prospective YP?
Sure. So I was working for a company, working in sales at the time, and I was really looking for just people my age in the community. I had moved from Charlotte into the Lake Norman area, and I knew the people that I worked with, but I didn't know a ton of other people. And so it wasn't as much about the business connections as it was for the personal connections. And now, you know, like you said, 8 years later, I have both business and personal connections to the young professionals. So it definitely started out as a social thing and has morphed into more business networking now.
If you could send out a message to anyone who's not engaged right now in either our Young Professionals program or another, what would you say to anyone watching here today that might be in that window of 20 to 40, 41? What would you say to them?
Sure. So it's just as simple as showing up. It's just show up to any of our events, one of our meetings, and I guarantee you'll come back. And if you don't come back, let me know why, because I'd really like to make it so you do come back. You know, we want to be inclusive of everybody, and we want everybody to come and gain something out of it, whether it's hearing something from one of our speakers or gaining a new friend out of something. And one thing that I'm exceptionally proud of is we have a lot of folks who aren't necessarily small business owners, or they're not looking for those business connections. They come from a large firm, whether it's Lowe's or PricewaterhouseCoopers or something like that they're just looking for a social outlet. And that has been really interesting to see that section of our group grow.
Bailey, you're living in Mooresville. What is it about living in Mooresville and the Lake Norman region that you enjoy the most?
So obviously the lake, you know, that's 5 months out of the year is probably lake oriented, but it's more interesting to see the communities that are along the lake, whether it's Mooresville or Davidson, Cornelius, Huntersville, and how different each one of those is, but yet they're so close in both geographically and tight-knit communities that you can go and you can get that small town feel in Davidson, and you go to Cornelius and you have really a feeling that you're at the lake. Then you go to Huntersville and you've got Birkdale and all of the resources that are around bigger properties and projects like that.
Bailey, we're really proud of our Lake Norman Young Professionals. As a matter of fact, my board chair this year, David Keith, I think he's been to most of your functions. He
Almost everyone.
Yeah, maybe you're gonna have to adopt him as a young professional.
I think we definitely will.
We're really proud of our young professionals and the impact that you're making and the things that you're doing. Many of the YPs are also involved in the chamber. They come to Chamber of Commerce events. We got the Business Expo coming up.
Mhm.
You guys are going to be helping up with that on Tuesday, October the 11th. But I want to thank you for the job that you're doing in leading the organization, and all of the YPs are involved. I want to thank Joe Vagnone. He is the presenting sponsor of our Around the Lake series. Joe Vagnone is a local business broker. So if you're looking at selling your business or buying a business, Joe can help you out. Bailey, thank you for being with us today, and thank everybody for watching Around the Lake.
Thank you, Bill.